post-game show, and the man in the box is the man who covered the game tonight for JAKIB Sports Media, John McMullen. Eagles win it tonight, 40-33. And John, listen, I'm stating the obvious here, but the running game was just monstrous. Tell us about it.
Well, 363 of the 500 yards of total offense. The Eagles have been playing football for a while, since 1933. That is the best rushing performance since 1948.
Wow.
They ran for, I believe it was 376 in 1948. So this is the best performance since. Jalen Hurts, career high. Miles Sanders, career high in the same game. Miles Sanders, by the way, Mike, was, Jalen was 20 or 21 short of Justin Fields' NFL record for a quarterback that he set a couple weeks ago. He was one big play away from doing that. It was a completely dominant performance in the running game. Part of that is Green Bay. They have a really bad run defense, but this is more than that. This team is really good when they're running the football well, and they were running the football from really play 3. They had those 2 passes at the beginning of the game, Mike. Incomplete. Then Jalen Hurts goes for 24, and they were off and running. Pun intended.
Hey, John, as we talked about in the pregame show, this was an Eagles offense that kind of sputtered the last couple of games. When you look at, though, that they put up 363 yards of rushing, 500 yards of offense, what did Nick Sirianni say about his offense finally getting back on track in this game?
Yeah, we were joking about it. Nick always says, if they get 200 rushing, he gives a game ball to the offensive line. I don't know what you do with 363.
Right.
I mean, you got to give him something more.
Right.
We called it a super game ball, maybe. I don't know. They were so dominant running the football. And it starts with Jalen Hurts. I mean, as I said, it was that 24-yard run. That was 3rd and 10, right? You're trying to set the tone of a game. Green Bay is out there. They got a chance to go 3 and out. And all of a sudden, boom, it's over. They have 2 good plays, and then it's 24 yards off schedule. I think 5 plays later was 28 yards from Jalen Hurts that set up the touchdown. He had a 42-yard run by Jalen Hurts. And then from there, it was Miles Sanders and pounding the football. And by the way, Boston Scott was effective running the football.
Yep.
Kenny Gainwell was effective running the football. Anybody was effective running the football. And yeah, as I said, part of it is Green Bay's just not a good run defense. We knew that. But this was more than that. This was far more than that. This was maybe the best rush offense against one of the worst rush defenses.
Hey, John, I got a thought. The Saudi Arabian soccer team at the World Cup beat Argentina this week, and the Saudi Sports Federation gave each soccer player a Rolls-Royce Phantom.
There we go. There we go. I don't know if Jeffrey Lurie wants to hear that, but I'll pass it along.
I just figured I'd throw it out there, man. I just figured, John.
Well, I'm sure Kelsey. I'm sure Lane will love that. Did you get that to Lane? Yeah.
So we talked about it, in the pregame about why the Eagles just don't come out and play football this way. They started the game off with those first 2 passes. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do this again. Yeah. They're gonna throw it 10 times before they decide to run it and rely on their run game. And lo and behold, Jalen gets loose, and then all of a sudden Miles gets into the act, and everybody else, to your point, that had their hands on the ball was just running through this defense. Is it possible that you could believe that they now know that this is the way that their offense probably should run, and maybe they should stick to this formula rather than, let's see how the passing game goes, and then if it doesn't work, we'll fall back on the run game?
It's a tough question because I do think they know. Look, if you pin Nick Sirianni down, Shane Steichen, and asked him, what do you do best? What do you do best? I think they would admit, and they have admitted, it's running the football. But they don't want to be one-dimensional. And last season, they were a little bit too one-dimensional. And when somebody came along, and it was Tampa Bay in the playoffs, and they figured out how to stop it, at least, or control it, they couldn't shift and do what they wanted to do to win the football game. This year, they have a sense of themselves that, and they said it pretty consistently. Everybody from Miles to Jalen to Nick Sirianni, they say we'll do what it takes to win a football game. But this year, they believe they can do what it takes to win a football game, and that means if somebody does show up, and somebody can defend the run, and somebody can stop this running game, they believe they can take advantage of it and beat them throwing the football. That's their goal. That's what they want to be able to do. I think for the most week 2, Minnesota was the first team that said, you know what, we're going to play zone. We're going to keep our eyes in the backfield at Jalen Hurts. We're going to force him to throw the football. And they did. And they beat Minnesota pretty handily. Mm-hmm. I think that's what they want to be. And I think to this point, more often than not, they've proven they are that. And if somebody can stop the run, and most teams will do a better job than Green Bay, but there'll be some good teams, and if they do stop the run, Tennessee, really good defense coming in next week, Jeffrey Simmons. Maybe they do a better job. Not maybe, they're definitely going to do a better job than Green Bay, but maybe they really do a really good job and the Eagles are forced to throw the football. They believe they can do it this year. I believe they can do it when Dallas Goedert is healthy. I don't know if they can do it right now, but that's the point they want to get back to.
Right. John, the obvious sticking point here is it too much? Jalen Hurts set the record, by the way, he beat Michael Vick's record, which was 130 tonight, rushing the football. But he also took a lot of hits. He took one in the ribs. He took one in the back of the neck. So there's always that age-old question. Are we doing too much with the quarterback running the football, especially between the tackles? Did Nick Sirianni say anything about that after the game, and what's your view on it?
I don't think so. Well, for two reasons. From my perspective, you can't legislate injuries anyway, so I tend to not worry about him. You play the football game. He's healthy now. You use him the way he should be used when he's healthy. I think it's ironic, Mike, when Jalen got hurt last season, it was in the pocket. It wasn't outside the pocket. He's done a very good job for the most part of avoiding contact. You're right. That one scared me a little bit when he got hit in the neck. That one seemed to affect him at least a little bit for a few seconds. So I get why people are worried about it, but I'm not sure how you can control that. Now, if you want to say lower the quarterback draws, the sort of set and runs, okay, maybe I can buy into that a little bit. But when it comes to the off-schedule stuff, no, that's what he does well. I mean, I don't want to take that away from Jalen Hurts. I don't want to take away 3rd and 10, and all of a sudden he's breaking open for a 24-yard gain. I don't want to take that 28-yard gain, that 42-yard gain away. If I'm running him between the tackles, yeah, but the Eagles don't do that often. There's the sneaks, but quarterbacks don't get hurt on sneaks. I can't even tell you the last time a quarterback has gotten hurt on a quarterback sneak. So I think that's a little bit overblown.
Hey, John, with Dallas Goedert on the shelf, at least for a couple of more games, you look at the tight end input in this Eagles offense, and basically it's obsolete. I mean, there's only been 2 passes to tight ends the last 2 games. Are you surprised that Jack Stoll, Calcaterra, and even Tyree Jackson, who was wide open in the end zone on one play that went to Devontae Smith, is not more prominent in the offense right now?
No, I'm not. I mean, I thought the biggest drop off on this team from starter to backup was Dallas Goedert to Jack Stoll, and I think it's being proven on a weekly basis. I mean, Jack is a very good blocker, but he's not a pass catching tight end. So it's not like you're going to give him a ton of traffic at, say, the expense of Quez Watkins or even Zach Pascal. Frank Alcantara, maybe down the road, but he's very young. He got the one target today and he lost 2 yards. Plus, you have issues with Grant if he's on the field a lot. He doesn't block very well. And then I think people forget with Tyree Jackson, he's a great developmental project, but he's a project. I mean, this is a former quarterback, we all know, from the University of Buffalo, making the transition to tight end. And he was doing a good job, and then he tore his ACL, and he lost a ton of that developmental time. So that's a position where it'd be nice to have a Richard Rodgers right now, but they don't have a Richard Rodgers right now.
John, I'm looking at, statistically what the Eagles did tonight. They're averaging 300 total yards a game, 178 through the air, 122, on the ground. Against this Packers offense, listen, they gave up 19 first downs. They were 1 for 7 on third down conversions. The Packers only ran 49 plays. They had a couple of big plays in there, specifically the one to Christian Watson after Aaron Rodgers, left the field. But we were all sitting there when Jordan Love came on the field, and the question that Mike asked me, okay, it's 3rd and long. We ought to be going after Jordan Love right now. And I was like, well, have you seen him go after anybody else all year long? What makes you think that he's going to go after him now? Sure enough, they sat back, boom. They hit the play. Blankenship takes a bad angle. 63 yards later, we're within a one-score game. I don't even know what my question is here, to be honest with you. I'm just kind of rambling. But it's like one of those things where why is it so difficult for Jonathan Gannon to get out of his skin? Like last week we saw him do some things. He ran some run blitzes. He ran some blitzes, towards the end of the game. He did some things differently that he hadn't been doing leading up to last week's game. And for some reason or another, you got a young Jordan Love. He doesn't really understand what he's doing. And you sit back and you let him make what seemed like the game was over turn into a game. Why is it so difficult for him to get out of his comfort zone of bending but not breaking?
Well, one, he believes in it. I mean, that's number one. That would be, I think, the most important part. I mean, the Eagles have done this cost-benefit analysis before the season. That's their goal. Their goal is to win the turnover battle, win the explosive play battle. They're 10-1. So number one, it's working. Number two, tonight, I would say, one of the reasons why Reed Blankenship is in the game, not Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Josiah Scott's in the game, not Avonte Maddox. So you don't have as much confidence on the guys on the back end. The problem to me is, Seth, when you're trying to limit explosive plays and then you give up an explosive play anyway. That, to me, is the concern. So I look at that and look, Reed Blankenship, what a day. Slay joked this week he wanted another goat ball. He's never intercepted Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks in football. He said he has intercepted Tom Brady. He got Drew Brees. He was too young for Peyton Manning. So this was the last one. This is the one he wants, Aaron Rodgers. He didn't get it, but he did have the tip to get Josiah Scott one. And that was his first interception of his career. And then Reed Blankenship, as an undrafted rookie, gets Aaron Rodgers in his first game. So there were some good things. They had 3 sacks. Well, yeah, it wasn't the best performance from the defense, but here we are. Again, we're talking about a 10-1 team. 11 games. This is the third game they've allowed more than 17 points. So that's kind of the demarcation line in the modern NFL. They lead the league in allowing 17 points or less. Number 3 defense. I always talk about context. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, by the way,
I get it in the moment, but contextually, they're better than everybody else, pretty much.
They definitely are. Slay should have had that ball. Hit him right in the helmet, by the way. So quickly, as we get out of here, John, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is a big loss. Is there any update on the injury? Landon Dickerson, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, what have you heard?
CJ's got a rib injury. You know, when I first saw it, I thought it was a stinger. That's what I thought immediately. It seems a little bit more seriously. The way he looked, it certainly seems to me like he probably cracked a rib or two. So we'll have to see that moving forward. Landon Dickerson left. He was limping. He's had that all year. He's been dealing with foot and ankle injuries. Andre Dillard came in at left guard, but Landon was able to come back in the game. So I think he's going to be fine. Reed Blankenship had the lead, so they were down to Kayvon Wallace at the end. But Reed saw him in the locker room. He just his chin strap got kind of busted up in him, and he's fine. So the one to be concerned about is definitely C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
John, always a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week at a more conventional time. Let's take a break. It is the Eagles Pond Lehocky post-game show. We're live from Ocean Casino. Thanks, Sean. We'll be back after this.
My wife was in an